All right, guys, just a quick update here. It's almost 11:30 now. Almost 11:30 Eastern time here right now. I want to thank you all for coming in and joining me today. Sticking around with us. It's been a sleepy and sloppy day today, hasn't it? It really has. I'm going to leave my contact information down at the lower left-hand corner here for you guys, in case you guys need to get in touch with us. Don't forget, we got all the contact info was posted for you right on the blog. All right, if you need that link, let us know. So what happened today? We came out this morning, 8 o'clock a.m., 8 a.m. Eastern time. We opened up our live trade room. What did we do first? We went through a methodical morning routine. One of the secrets to my success in the long term of my career has always been to have a very methodical way to start and stop my day. And the first thing we did today was we looked at our news. And there was no major news this morning, was there? Not a single thing on the calendar. We had the Bank of Canada rate statement. They left rates unchanged. We had some news out of Australia overnight. Didn't have a lot going on in Europe or the U.S. this morning, and that's what led to such slow, sloppy price action. So this morning we come in, we open up our morning prep. We go right to sidewaysmarkets.com. We open up the morning prep, and we talked about the fact that we didn't have any real major news this morning. So the strategy today, very, very easy to anticipate what was likely to happen. It was likely to be inconsistent this morning. Inconsistent meaning that we were going to have to wait for those periods of decent volume where price action is actually moving to higher highs, higher lows, or right, vice versa. So we knew right away this morning the plan was going to be patience. Patience was the plan this morning. We also know that we've got non-farm payrolls on Friday morning, and we're a little bit worried that traders might be using that as an excuse to sit on hands today. So the reality is no major news. Patience was the key word today. We came in this morning, and of course, right away, we identified a couple things. Now, I'm looking for an entry long on the Russell right now because we're expecting a fake out breakout here on the Russell at the previous low of day. This previous low of day, I'm telling you right now, folks, for the rest of the afternoon today, this previous low of day on the Russell is going to be a major area for us. One of three things is likely to happen on this Russell. Either A, we're going to go lower and look for a wave pattern short. B, we're going to see a failure pattern here, which will result in us buying these lows. I'm looking to buy the lows as we speak right now on the Russell. The third scenario is that price may just sit right on top of this previous low of day. We may not get another opportunity on the Russell. So three possible scenarios here. And guys, my stop is at 32 on crude right now if you're following along at home on this crude trade long. We'll talk about that in a moment. So scenario one on the Russell, price goes lower, we sell short with a wave pattern. Scenario number two, price goes lower but cannot continue. That wave pattern stalls out and reverses, we get long. Number three, the third scenario, price comes down, wave pattern short, no personality, no speed, no delta. We read tape and it sits. If it sits, I sit on my hands. If it goes lower, I'm looking to get short. If it gets back above that previous low of day, I'm buying the lows of this range. That's my Russell. Now, crude oil this morning actually gave us a number of very easy clues right off the bat. What was the first clue we saw today? What was the first clue we saw today? First clue, and again, this is all referenced right on our blog at 8 o'clock this morning. Don't take my word for it. Go right back to the home page of the blog. You're going to see as you scroll down here that we've referenced our trading plans today. And you can see on the crude oil plan, our goal was to sell below 85, profit targets at 47, 87.25. Now, we also mentioned down below that paragraph that if the sellers happen to fail, we were going to be looking to buy above the previous low of day. Now, once we opened up on crude at 9 o'clock, you can see crude oil actually held me in that position. I got a target on crude at 58 right now, be about 60 target. So the first plan on crude was to be trading short. Why did I say to get short? Well, because we had broken below the trading range from yesterday. There was yesterday's trading range. So when we broke below that level, it was very easy now for us to call this trade short. So we sold on the way down. But then what happened, folks? We noticed that once we got down to this 87.75 area, once we hit this trigger zone support, getting short below the 85 as we had talked about on the morning prep, all of a sudden the market started going to sleep on us. We saw it. We talked about it live in real time. We saw all of a sudden the crude oil traders were counting sheep. They were falling asleep on us. And we knew right then and there that the price action had changed. We knew right then and there that we had a different personality. So just after 9:30 this morning, again, with no major news, we couldn't rely on the news to be the catalyst. And just after 9:30 a.m. Eastern time today on crude oil, we noticed a distinct change in market personality. Well, then, of course, and Val, I'll give you full credit for this one today, we had a distinguished guest here with us this morning. He said, hey, isn't that a gap down? I said, absolutely it is. Now, remember what happened yesterday. We sold short to fill that gap yesterday. Remember that? That trade was called live in the trade room yesterday morning. Nice big 100-tick winner going down. We talked about that. That was referenced yesterday on the blog. We called it live in the room yesterday. Now here we are. We have another gap down. This actually filled a bigger gap on a much slower time frame, but we had a second day in a row of a gap down. This time, of course, well, sorry, it was a gap up followed by a gap down, excuse me. I got to stop, by the way, at 32 here on crude oil. And so we immediately said, wait a second. We initially came out the gate today bearish, but after 9:30, we noticed right away those bears had failed. Apparently, the bears went off on vacation this morning after 9:30 because the buyers stepped in what was there with them. There really wasn't a lot of buyers in the tape. The personality was pretty sleepy today. But when we knew that we had the gap down, we also now, of course, jumped right into the bullish position because of two things. The first thing was we knew that after 9:30 we had broken above the opening range. We also knew the sellers had completely given up on this move lower. And the gap, as we saw yesterday, can be a very good directional clue. So we knew right away there'd be a likelihood of price trying to fill the gap. We're not going to put all of our money on it. We're not going to put ourselves in a position where if the gap didn't get filled, we'd be really in trouble, because that's not a responsible way to trade the gap. So I know there's a price gap there. I know that price has a tendency to fill that gap. And so once we saw, first of all, the break of the opening range, second of all, the sellers had failed to lows, and third, the gap definitely doesn't hurt our chances to see price rising. Normally, once I see the sellers begin to slow down and fail, we break above the opening range. That's going to be bullish no matter what. The gap, of course, throws fuel on that fire. No pun intended, of course, here on crude. So we immediately start to hunt for buying opportunities. This recent one here on crude oil was a wave pattern long. There were two buying opportunities here on crude. One was a two-step pattern, and the second one, a wave pattern. So as we came lower, tried to find a way to keep it going lower, didn't want to do it for us. No big deal. We find ourselves in a W pattern at the lows. We buy those lows, two-step pattern long. That then goes into a wave pattern long. And that's where I'm in right now, in that wave pattern long. Now, normally, this price on crude oil would have already gone up to that previous low of the day, but we're hobbling around here right now. And it's been very, very clear to us when you look at the speed of the tape. I call this the pace of tape indicator. You can see here, really, it's been a very, very slow day for most of the day here, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, been very, very slow. We saw this happen yesterday, where the price action got a little bit slow around 10 o'clock and then picked up after 11 o'clock, and we were able to make some great money after 11 o'clock yesterday morning. So we're hoping that continues here as we go into the afternoon session here. So we're waiting here patiently. We are bullish on crude oil right now. We are bullish on gold, gold being at the lows of its channel, the lows of its wedge. And we are bearish on the euro. The euro right now, here's my euro, the euro being at the highs. So euro being at the highs of its range right now, I am bearish. Gold right now being at the lows of its range, I am bullish. The Russell, we're going to wait and see what happens on the Russell right now. The Russell, of course, is at the highs, so we are in the long term bearish on the Russell. Russell being here at the highs of that range. But again, I'm waiting to see what happens on that Russell around that previous low of day. If that previous low of day, if that gets broken and price keeps falling on this Russell, I'm going to be bearish. I'm going to be selling short. But I need to wait for the pattern here to get short on the Russell. I'm waiting for that wave pattern. All right, I am out of the crude trade. That will wrap me up here for the morning session on crude. We'll take a small lunch break and get back at it here after 1:30 this afternoon, trading the afternoon session. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys so much for being here today. It's been a good day. It's been a slow and sloppy day. These days are going to happen. It's how we react to these days. Mama said there'd be days like this when we don't have a lot of news in the marketplace. It's ahead of some major news later on this week. When we have days like today, we've got to limit our exposure to the higher percentage trades. We want to capitalize on days like we saw on Monday. On Monday, we saw fantastic opportunities on Monday. We made a ton of capital on Monday, made over $1,200 on Monday. And so this morning, we can't really be upset at this because we've already made some great profit this week. But today is a great example of how we don't want to let a day like this get us down. So stay on our game, sit on those hands before the trade set up, and again, wait for those high percentage patterns, and you'll be just fine. We planned our trades. Now we're here to trade our plan. Let's not get off the topic and stay confident in the rules that we use every day. They've made me who I am so far, and we're going to stick to them. A great day here, guys. Got a little more time here to answer questions. If you have any questions, type them right in. We'll keep answering them.